2 years ago. Watch.
Well, if you think Wuhan 2020 was bad, welcome to Shanghai 2022. This has been like no other lockdown, and it's in the country's cosmopolitan and most affluent financial hub of all places. So this door behind me, this is my exit to the outside alleyway, and late last night I heard them taping up my door along with the doors of my neighbors. They're placing a paper seal so as to keep it closed. Some buildings with positive cases inside, well, they're locked shut from the outside. They're using bicycle locks and padlocks just to keep people in.
Can you believe that?
So for once, CNN is not exaggerating. You have 25 million people locked inside their homes. You have the largest prison camp in human history.
Yeah.
Anyone who tests positive for COVID is shoved into a van and then taken to a quarantine camp. Watch it happen to this child.
They're going to kill these people. They're just going to... You guys ever wonder why, if you look and go look online about United Nations tanks in America, and you will see hundreds of tanks and military vehicles being taken all over the West Coast. I've seen them. Where are all these tanks going, and why do they have them? What about all the them casket boxes that they have? Millions of them stacked in places. Go look, man. They want to do that to us here. Don't think it's not off. Look at what Canada has done up there.
Beat those dogs and cats to death on the street. That's happening tonight all over Shanghai. A mass slaughter of pets. And we hesitate even to show this to you. It's too horrible.
That's because they can't. They're going to starve the people out because that's what they eat.
The COVID prevention worker was caught on camera bashing to death a pet corgi. Apparently, this happened after the pet's owner had tested reportedly positive for COVID-19 and taken away to a quarantine center. It was a resident in the compound who filmed this video and filmed how this health worker used a shovel to strike the corgi 3 times.
And you think that China gives a shit about polluting the world or animals or people or anything? You got Nike and Coca-Cola and all these corporations back in China and fucking Americans. You guys got to stop buying their shit. There you go, man. That's what they do. They'll beat their people and kill them.
It was a tough judgment call whether or not to put that on the air, but it's real, and you should know exactly what the authorities are talking about when they say the Chinese government is...
That's just one example.
Videos like that one all over social media.
Exactly.
So the Chinese government isn't denying this is real, and it's not apologizing. Lang Wanyan is a spokesman for China's National Health Commission, effectively...
They're going to come up with some excuse, and it's for the best of everybody to kill your animals.
The statement in the newspaper, the People's Daily, and explain the government's thinking here. Quote, China adheres to COVID zero, he said. China's socialist system has a strong ability to organize and mobilize, which will help it ensure the success of the COVID zero strategy.
There's no such thing. In other words, they're going to lock their people down forever.
But what does success look like? Well, this is what success is in Shanghai tonight. This is video shot by a resident of one of Shanghai's countless apartment towers. What you're hearing in this video are the screams of the people trapped inside.
Oh my God, can you imagine that? That's what they do to their people. They are worried that their people are going to overrun the government, so this is how they deal with it. Paranoia.
Imprisoned in concrete apartment blocks, screaming for help and slowly starving. In the words of a Western journalist called Jeff Groleman, who is apparently stuck in Shanghai, quote, this is the biggest, richest, most international city in China, and people are starving without medicine, without freedom. Parents are separated from their children, the military is on the streets, and Shanghai's optimism has ground to a halt. But it's worse than that. Some in Shanghai are so desperate they are crying out for food. Watch.
And people are complaining that stores have run out of food, and it's nearly impossible to schedule deliveries because couriers can't keep up with the demand. One man in Shanghai documenting the shortages on...
That's coming here, you guys.
3 deliveries that were booked to deliver today, all 3 were cancelled.
social media, videos not verified by NBC News, described as protests by people desperate to get food and medicine. Store shelves cleared out. This man on the street yelling,
Can you
"What am I
imagine?
supposed to buy? What am I supposed to
First
do?"
time in my lifetime, and I'm 61, I saw store shelves empty in America. It's never happened in my life.
And in this video, the residents yell at the police at one point. They say, "We are starving."
We are starving, they scream at stony-faced police as drones overhead.
Well, the police all eat, the government all eat.
This is, again, the richest city in China, and you never thought you'd see anything like this. So
That tells you how bad it is in the poor places.
It's not about COVID.
Oh my God. Father, help their people.
Even if Shanghai did have a COVID
I
crisis,
pray.
we know perfectly well from recent experience, this is not the way to handle a COVID crisis. So from the perspective of China's central government, the problem is not COVID.
It's the
problem is
people.
Shanghai itself. Shanghai is probably the freest place in China. It's certainly got more foreign nationals than any city in China.
That's why it's locked down.
Trade that revolves around its historic port. So by Chinese standards, Shanghai is an independent-minded city, and that's the problem.
Exactly.
Independent-mindedness is the main threat.
Exactly.
If you're the head of the Communist Party of China and you're trying to run a highly volatile country of 1.4 billion people from Beijing, naturally your top concern always will be Shanghai. Shanghai is the one place of meaningful insurrection.
People think for
And
themselves.
that's especially true this year. Xi Jinping, the Chinese autocrat, is set to take a third consecutive term beginning in the fall. Now, that was not supposed to happen. There were term limits in China. But 4 years ago, the Chinese Communist Party did away with those term limits, and Xi Jinping can now rule the country forever. Even in China, that is a controversial move. As a China expert called Natasha Kassam put it, quote, "From Beijing's perspective, there is no higher priority than stability ahead of the party Congress this fall. This is the closest you might come to seeing a campaign season in China." Oh, there it is right there. A campaign season. Even in an authoritarian country, public opinion still matters. A campaign season.
I mean,
is
so
still
many
real,
people
even if
want to
President
go
Trump
against
doesn't
it.
know.
That's right.
So China's rulers want to stay in power forever. In order to do that, they're using COVID restrictions. They're pretty sure
Exactly.
COVID restrictions work.
Sounds like what Canada did. Same shit.
Now, how should we respond to this? If you believe in democracy, this is repugnant.
Absolutely.
25 million people just lost their most basic human rights. So the question is anyone in the Biden
That's
administration
evil as evil is.
human rights said anything about it?
Father, help those
Has the
people,
State
I
Department
pray.
issued an angry denunciation of Xi Jinping? Is the U.S. government threatening sanctions against China for building the world's largest prison camp?
Exactly. No. Because Biden is sucking his penis.
Here's Tony Fauci.
That's my
He
opinion.
will never criticize the Chinese government.
We spoke to one of the WHO investigators who'd been to Wuhan to investigate how the virus started, and they were prevented from seeing key details and from speaking to key people. Why do you think the Chinese government did that?
You know, I don't want to.
This guy should be hung in public. Literally should be hung.
About that, but
It's my
the
opinion.
Chinese are very closed in a way of.
That's okay. Father in heaven's got some work for this man. I wouldn't want to be him when I go see Jesus.
Even though there's no reason to be secretive, I think they were very concerned and maybe embarrassed that the virus evolved from their country, but there's nothing wrong with that.
I shouldn't say that, but man, my human side. As much pain as he put on our country and on our children and everybody, I think he should be hung in public.
With the Chinese government lying about COVID. There's certainly nothing wrong with starving the population of Shanghai.
Yeah, see, they'll do that.
If there were. In fact, Shanghai may be a model. A longtime Harvard epidemiologist called Eric
They'll do that
Feifel
here.
just wrote an op-ed explaining that we should all be grateful for the atrocities the Chinese government is committing in Shanghai tonight because they're in, quote, everyone's interest. A health security expert called Nicholas Thomas just told CNN that Shanghai is an inspiration to the world's leaders. Quote, "The legacy of Shanghai will see a return to mass lockdowns for larger cities in the near to medium term." And if you watch carefully, you can see all of this taking shape. And why wouldn't it be taking shape in this country? We've got midterm elections coming. And
Exactly, and they're going to bring back pandemics so they can have their mail-in voting. The whole fucking thing is just evil. Exactly.
Is there
Here we
science to
go.
justify this?
No.
Philadelphia has a 7-day average of 2 COVID deaths. 2 COVID deaths in a city of 1.5 million people over a week. Now, of course, when your strategy is, quote, COVID zero, 2 dead from COVID is more than enough to justify another mass quarantine. According to a report tonight, the Biden administration plans to bring back its lunatic vax mandate for federal employees. And of course, the mask mandate remains in effect.
See, it will never end. That 2 weeks turned into what?
Despite no
Can we get our country back? That's what I want to know.
But you must obey anyway, and they're making sure.
See, here we go.
In Dallas, 2 robots, known as Security Control Observation Towers, SCOT for short, scan the crowd to make sure that everyone is in compliance. Now, with facial recognition software, the robots can know exactly who the disobedient are. We're just beginning to see the outlines of the repression that COVID has made possible. That's the point. And if you want what the future looks like, you can look at China and shiver.
Exactly.
In the state of California, the state is starting to pull funding from any school that won't comply with the new mandate, a vaccine mandate for children. Joe Biden endorses that. Inject your children.
Yeah, now it's give it to the children. Can you believe how evil this is, man? Father, man, this just...
Against all of this, she saw the outline very early. She joins us.